Hello everyone, and I wish you all a wonderful day. Today we will explore an emotional story about Trieu Khanh and his daughter Tieu Ly. After a long day cutting grass at the orange orchard, Trieu Khanh returns home and suddenly finds Tioli and Han missing. Worried, he rushes through the village to look for them. Then he discovers that Tioly's mother had taken her out without telling him first. What really happened? And why does Tieu Ly look so confused when her father finally finds her? If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe for more videos. That afternoon, Trieu Khanh returned from the orange orchard later than he had expected. The sun was still high, but his body felt heavy from a long day of hired work. His shirt was damp with sweat, his pants were stained with mud, and dry grass clung to his arms. In one hand he carried cut grass. In the other, he held a few folded bills, the small payment he had earned after cutting weeds under the orange trees. It was not much money, but to Trieu Khanh, it already had a place in his mind. He wanted to save it for Tieu Ly's school things, maybe a new pencil, maybe a better notebook, maybe something small that would make his daughter feel proud when she sat at the little wooden study table. As he walked closer to the house, he imagined the usual scene waiting for him. Tieu Ly would be somewhere in the yard, playing with small stones or looking at her books. Han would probably be near the porch, watching over the child in her quiet way. The house was poor, but when those two were there, it never felt empty. But the moment Trieu Khanh stepped into the yard, he stopped. The yard was too quiet. There was no sound of Tieu Ly's voice, no small footsteps running toward him, no Han near the porch. The front door was open, but the house felt strangely still. Even the bundle of grass in his hand suddenly seemed heavier. Trieu Khanh looked around the yard once, then again. He called Tieu Ly's name, trying to keep his voice calm. No answer. He called Han next. Still nothing. A cold worry moved through his chest. He placed the bundle of grass beside the wall and rushed into the house. The small room was empty. The sleeping mat was folded. The old bowls were where they had been left in the morning. Nothing looked broken, but that made the silence even harder to understand. Then his eyes landed on the small study table. On the table lay Tieu Ly's old hair clip. It was the same hair clip Huong had brought the day before, the gift Tieu Ly had accepted but had not dared to wear. She had placed it beside her notebook, as if she did not know whether to keep it close or keep it away. Now it sat there alone, while Tieu Ly was nowhere to be seen. Trieu Khan's heart tightened. He tried to tell himself that Han might have taken Tieu Ly to fetch water or buy something nearby. But Han rarely went far with the child unless someone asked her to. She was simple and trusting, but she cared deeply for Tieu Ly. If both of them were gone without a word, something had happened. He stepped back into the yard, breathing faster now. There was no phone in his pocket, no quick way to ask anyone, no message waiting for him. All he had were his legs, his voice, and the growing fear that someone had taken Tieu Ly somewhere without telling him. He hurried to the nearest house and asked if anyone had seen the two girls. An older woman at the gate thought for a moment, then said she had seen Huong earlier. Huong had come to Trieu Khan's house when he was away. She had brought a small bag and some toys. A little later, she had walked toward the village road with Tieu Ly and Han. For a moment, Trieu Khanh could not answer. Huong again. Only yesterday, he had told her clearly that if she wanted to see Tieu Ly, she had to come properly. She was not to take the child away without telling him. She was not to make Tieu Ly afraid or confused. Yet now, after just one day, she had come while he was working and taken his daughter out again. Trieu Khanh thanked the neighbor and ran toward the village road. His tired body protested with every step, but he ignored it. The money for Tieu Ly's school things was still tucked in his pocket. The grass stains on his hands had not even dried. None of it mattered now. All he could think about was Tieu Ly. He searched along the dirt road, calling her name. He looked near the small shop, near the old well, and along the path where children sometimes played. A few people told him they had seen Huong walking with two girls toward the market area. That detail made his fear worse. A toy could make a child smile for a moment, but it could not replace safety or trust. And it could not erase the fear of a father coming home to an empty house. By the time Trieu Khanh reached the market, his breathing had become uneven. People were buying vegetables, carrying baskets, and calling to one another in the afternoon heat. To everyone else, it was just another normal day. But to Trieu Khanh, every face felt like an obstacle between him and his daughter. He moved quickly from stall to stall, asking if anyone had seen Huong, Tioli, and Han. Then an old fruit seller told him she had seen a woman buying a small toy for a little girl near the corner stall. A few steps later, he saw them. Tioli was standing near a small toy stall, holding a new little toy in both hands. Han stood beside her, watching carefully as if she was trying her best not to lose sight of the child. Huong stood close to them, speaking softly and pointing at a few small things on the table. For a second, Trieu Khanh stopped moving. Tioli was safe. She was not hurt. She was not crying. But the relief did not come gently. It came mixed with anger, fear, and the exhaustion of a father who had worked all day only to return home and find the people he loved missing. Then Tieu Ly looked up and saw him. The little girl's eyes widened. The toy in her hands lowered slowly. She did not run to Huong. She ran straight toward Trieu Khanh. Trieu Khanh dropped to one knee and opened his arms. Tieu Ly ran into him and held him tightly. He wrapped both arms around her, one hand resting gently on the back of her head. For a moment, he said nothing. He only held his daughter and felt that she was truly there. Han hurried closer, her face nervous and apologetic. In her simple way, she explained that Huong had said she only wanted to take Tieu Ly out for a short while. Han had gone with them because she did not want Tieu Ly to be alone. She thought that if she stayed close, everything would be safe. Trieu Khanh looked at Han, and his expression softened. Han had not meant to do wrong. She was trusting, and she had tried to protect Tieu Ly in the only way she knew. He gave her a small nod, enough to tell her he was not angry. Then he looked at Huong. Huong stood beside the toy stall, holding the small bag she had brought. Her face showed guilt and helpless longing. She wanted to be part of Tieu Ly's life again. She wanted her daughter to smile at her and accept her gifts. But every sudden step only made the child more confused. Trieu Khanh stood up, keeping Tieu Ly close to his side. He did not shout. The market was full of people, and Tieu Ly was already shaken enough, but his voice was firm. "You can see her," he said. "You can buy things for her if you want, but you cannot take Tieu Ly anywhere when I do not know about it." Huong lowered her eyes. "She is still small," Trieu Khanh continued. "Do not make her choose between her father and her mother before she understands anything." Tieu Ly held the new toy against her chest, but she leaned into Trieu Khan's leg. The toy was bright and new, something she might have wanted on another day. But now it did not seem to bring her joy. It only reminded everyone that a gift could not replace trust. Huong nodded slowly. She looked at Tieu Ly, then stepped back. She did not try to pull the child closer. For the first time, she seemed to understand that being a mother again would require patience, not just presence. Trieu Khanh took Tieu Ly's hand and led her home. Han walked beside them quietly, still watching Tieu Ly as if she was afraid to make another mistake. When they reached the house, Tieu Ly walked to her small study table and placed the new toy beside the old hair clip. She did not play with it. She only looked at it for a while, then sat close to her father. Trieu Khanh sat beside her and touched her shoulder. He had spent the day cutting grass to buy school things, but now he understood something more clearly. Tieu Ly did not need toys first. She needed safety. She needed to know that home would not change suddenly whenever an adult felt lonely. Outside, Han sat near the doorway, quiet and careful. Tieu Ly leaned against her father's side. Trieu Khanh looked at the little toy on the table, knowing that every visit, every gift, and every promise would have to begin with one thing first: his daughter's peace. After a long day cutting grass at the orange orchard, Trieu Khanh returns home tired, muddy, and holding a little money he saved for Tieu Ly's school supplies. But when he steps into the yard, the house is strangely quiet. Tieu Ly and Han are both gone, and only Tieu Ly's old hair clip remains on her small study table. Worried, Trieu Khanh rushes through the village searching for them. He soon learns that Tieu Ly's mother had come while he was away and taken the girl out to buy a toy, with Han following to watch over her. When Trieu Khanh finally finds them near the market, Tieu Ly is safe but confused. She runs to her father immediately. Trieu Khanh gently protects her and makes it clear that no one can take Tieu Ly anywhere without telling him first.